It is among the most ancient contradictions in allure. She pursues the man who forgets the person who stays and departs, the man who is constantly waiting by his phone, accessible, constantly offering, and transforms into imperceptible over time. However, the person who walks away calmly and without resentment. Without words, it becomes memorable. His absence begins to reverberate more loudly than 100 others were present, because the thing that draws her in isn't pay attention. It's a contrast. When a man leaves, he makes separation. In addition to being physical, psychological, vivacious, and emotional, something deep is awakened by that distance. That solace could never be found inside her. Make contact. She starts to feel intrigued, perplexed, even an odd sort of reverence. The individual who before attempted to establish his value now turns back into a mystery. Additionally, a mystery to the female intellect is emotional heft. You see, remaining as well long period of time when you're not appreciated doesn't express affection. It conveys terror. However, leaving when you're still concerned demonstrates strength. It demonstrates self-control. It transmits a message that directly addresses her unconscious. Peace is not what I seek. Peace is who I am. And that is just the type of dude she emotions cannot be ignored. She would initially disregard your silence as separation. You're, she will tell herself, frigid, somewhat self-centered. However, as time passes, her pride will begin to disintegrate under the pressure of that peaceful distance. She will start to, I wonder what went wrong and why the guy who given her everything that she no longer needed. As well, that query is what makes her fall, since the purest form of attraction is constructed on uncertainty rather than comfort. All women recall the man who was able to have stayed but failed to do so, the individual who adored her without having to persuade her, the man whose vitality seemed full even after she took hers away. Due to a man like that doesn't leave to punish her. He leaves to safeguard his tranquility, and she perceives such tranquility as strength. In actuality, a woman cannot fall deeply. For a man who stays a lifetime since without separation, she is unable to sense his depth. She cannot hear if there is no silence. His value. She cannot look without losing his worth. For this reason, the man who walks. She doesn't go away. He instructs her. He shows her the distinction between effort and presence and vitality, between sound and significance. In this video, we will investigate why women are attracted to walking men departs, as opposed to the one who remains, the psychology, the mechanisms of emotion, and the respect concealed behind distance. By you'll realize in the end that walking, the attraction doesn't end when you move away. It's the start of your power. Prior to us begin, keep in mind, whether you're prepared to conquer the dating game and yourself, the entire course is awaiting you at the poi.com/stoiccouple.podia.com website. Once you sign up, you're in, with lifelong access to each and every upcoming books, series, and lessons. Begin your path today, as development doesn't hold on. Let's get started. First section, The Walking Away's Hidden Psychology. Each and every man who has experienced intense love understands this. Truth in the end. Occasionally, the most effective thing you can do is not to talk, clarify, or defend comprehension. It's to leave, silently. It's out of peace, not pride, because leaving doesn't mean denial. It has to do with acknowledgement. It's when you become aware of your energy is being used in places that are no longer appreciated. Additionally, rather than demonstrating your value, you keep it. In the thoughts of that choice alters everything, woman. She doesn't get it at first. She is accustomed to continual attention, dependable and simple to reach. However, when an individual who once gave his whole being to her subconscious abruptly retreats, goes into a confused emotional state, the equilibrium changes. The safety she sensation of desire transforms into an she cannot describe the desolation. You see, leaving generates contrast, and attraction is triggered by contrast. When you're paying attention to her, she takes it is plentiful, so we take it for granted. When you retreat, it becomes limited. Moreover, value is created by scarcity. She starts to relive the instant she missed. The voice inflection, the endurance you conducted in a manner you never requested, yet always paid attention. The quiet you depart from turns into a representation of her own feelings out of balance. This change has significant psychological effects, since it takes away her emotional leverage. She is no longer in charge of the rhythm of the relationship. You've halted reacting, and now it's her doing it. To your silence, that reversal of she feels both because of her duality, uneasy and attracted, to you at the concurrently. It sparks an interest that logic cannot be quiet. She begins to reflect, not because you're pursuing, but however you're not. And few men know that secret, comprehend. Walking away doesn't make a man lose allure. He redefines it. He transforms the sentimental language of the connection. Once she was able to easily reach him, she must now feel sorry for him. Additionally, in that sensation, that ambiguity, that want, respect starts to grow. In actuality, leaving doesn't make you cold-hearted. It helps you become more disciplined. It demonstrates how your feelings work for you, not the reverse. It's a declaration that reads, I'm quite concerned, but I take care of myself first. Furthermore, ironically, that is what rekindles her concern. Because women are not attracted to males who give it your all. They are attracted to men who provide context. Consequently, when you leave the relationship, you change it. You pause becoming dependable and strong. You cease to be a choice and turn into the norm. And that silent display of courage, more than you could possibly express, the feeling she has long after you've left. Section 2. The influence of emotion contrast. Comfort does not breed attraction. Rather, it grows in contrast. The heart doesn't long for what it really comprehends. It longs for the sensation, yet is unable to completely describe. For this reason, your quiet, your distance, and your choice to leave brings forth a certain emotional heaviness that comfort could never yield. Due to when everything is at your disposal, nothing feels important. However, as your presence becomes less frequent, it begins to have meaning once more. When a no matter how he is treated, the man stays. She no longer thinks he is strong. When patience yields predictability, his courtesy into intimacy, his devotion into the backdrop. However, as he walks away, not in annoyance, but rather because self-worth, the emotional realm in which she constructed around his availability, starts to tremble. She must experience the distinction between his presence and his absence, and she is struck by that contrast in ways that surprise her. Initially, she could persuade herself that she is unconcerned. She will claim that she needs room. She will pretend to be free. However, freedom feels different when the man she believed she was in charge of stops circling her. The once calm quiet begins to echo now. The confirmation that suddenly, what was thought to be unending vanishes, and something more profound was present in that void, starts to take shape, consciousness. Emotional contrast is that knowledge, the knowledge that your energy brought serenity. Where is it now? Direction where there is restlessness, confusion at this point, grounding where there currently uncertainty. She starts to realize that your it wasn't noise, it was equilibrium. Additionally, the longer you stay silent steadily, the more obvious that reality gets. For this reason, leaving works when words don't. You can't argue with someone into appreciating you. You can only display them, how life feels when you're not as energetic within it. Additionally, when a lady at last feels that gap, not logically, but on an emotional level, it permanently alters her perception. Because she no longer makes comparisons between you and other males. She's making comparisons with everyone to the tranquility you once provided. Men frequently believe that pursuit is what attracts people, about saying more, doing more, and demonstrating more. However, attraction isn't produced through work. It is produced by polarity. When you retreat, you create room. That area is what provides space for her emotions to develop. It provides her take advantage of the chance to miss you, to wonder, to imagine. And that questioning is what sustains her emotional bond long after you've passed away. The reason emotional contrast works so well is this straightforward reality. She is unable to want what she has it already. She cannot overlook what remained. Leaving introduces value is created by scarcity. The A man who remains despite therapy becomes the norm. However, the individual who is able to disappear with grace becomes a memorable experience, since it's not ultimately the one who remains amid the storm that brings her victory. Courtesy. It is capable of peacefully leave things alone and let the silence do the talking. What words could never say. Section 3. The reason behind her incessant thoughts about the man who departed. When a man leaves without making a sound, something odd occurs within her mind. Initially, she is perplexed. Then she becomes interested. And ultimately, that curiosity becomes obsession because she used to dismiss the male silence as weakness now starts to feel like power, the type of power that remains composed as she spirals. She can't get him off my mind because his absence goes beyond simple distance. It's contemplation. It reflects her back, actions, choices, and pride, all without uttering a word. Women are emotional thinkers. They are not processing logical conclusions. They sense them. Thus, when you depart peacefully rather than rage, her feelings don't have anything to do with protect against. There's no need to justification, no offense to reply to, no just silence, pandemonium to blame. And in the feminine mind, quiet produces stress. It's not complete. It's mysterious. It weighs a much. Additionally, that weight begins to stress on her mind every day. After the day, she will begin to recall details that were previously irrelevant. The how you spoke with a hushed tone, the truth. The steadying of your patience, her disposition. The sensation of your energy distinct, calm, and not reacting, calm, manly. Those items that she used to ignore it. But now she comes back as echoes. Since most guys depart, you departed via emotion. Evolution. You didn't leave to create her pursuit. You left because your peace was no longer negotiable. That degree of dignity burns a enduring impression on a woman's memory. She is now beginning to notice the change in all of her interactions. Other males talk louder, text more quickly, and act needy. She senses everything that is said. However, you, the one who went, don't say anything, far and inaccessible. Additionally, the more she starts, the more unreachable you are. To attain on a cerebral and even spiritual level, she envisions situations and rewrites discussions, looks for hints that perhaps it explains why you gave up. That introspection has nothing to do with guilt. Realization is the key. She is becoming aware of that she can't get back what she lost, swap out, not as a result of what you provided, but due to the way you conducted yourself. The last man becomes a recognizable face. The A man who departs turns into a legend. He changes from recollection to mystery. And that enigma deepens each day you keep quiet, each post you fail to make, every second you stay calm. You become more than just the person she was in the past, yet a representation of something she didn't. When she could, she protected, and she will never speak the truth out loud. She keeps thinking about you all the time, since she at last realizes what you were attempting to demonstrate all along. The actual men don't plead for affection. They are its embodiment, and as they depart, they leave a quiet that cannot be filled by a new voice, because she is haunted by the man who stays. Life, but the man who disappears stays in her head. Section 4. The deference derived from regret. Sometimes there is a quiet moment, weeks or even months later, when she ultimately acknowledges to herself what she couldn't previously. You were underestimated by her. It doesn't occur aloud, it occurs in quiet, in tiny epiphanies that struck her when she was least expecting it. She perhaps noticed something that makes her think about you, a tune, a line, a voice tone. Abruptly, that serene demeanor she remembers things that were once taken for granted, and the remorse starts then. When she loses your affection, regret doesn't begin. Pay attention. It begins when she recognizes she is unable to retrieve it, when your quiet becomes steady, your vitality unavailable, and you're at ease. Something starts to change inside of her. She begins to realize that you were not attempting to win her over. You were providing stability, and she was perplexed. That with vulnerability. She believed that your patience was apathy. She thought your allegiance was predictability. However, now that you're gone, everything begins to appear different, more distinct, more expensive and sharper. That's how remorse is the foundation of respect, not by way of your remarks, but via her own contemplation. She starts to realize how detached you are. Wasn't turned down. It was enlightening. It demonstrated the distinction between a man and who requires care and a man who has a purpose. It became clear what she lost: direction as well as affection, because she was previously grounded by your energy, whether or not she acknowledged it. You were the silent stability she could rely on, unaware of it. Now, each effort it feels hollow to take your place. She might be amused by other men, but they avoid centering her. They also react, talk too much, move too fast, and need too frequently. None of them exude that languid assurance that your stillness conveys an emotional gravity produced. At that point, admiration starts to grow. Through her pride's crevices, she feels it, but she won't admit it. That internal recognition that you were constructed in a distinct way. What baffles her, most importantly, you didn't discipline her. You didn't strike back. You made no attempt to disprove her. You just raised the bar. And that is what most makes her, I admire you. Because in a world where there are noise, the man who leaves quietly poses a risk, not because of his anger, but because to his freedom. She regrets it. Recall. She reflects when she is respected, and you are transformed from a recollection by that reflection into a norm. You cease to be the one who went and became the person she was unable to take a break. Every quiet moment turns into a lesson she will always remember. Due to every woman secretly admires the man who made her realize how much losing him would cost, without having to express it. Section 5. When she rekindles her desire for you. It never occurs all at once. There isn't any noteworthy instance of insight, no admission, no moment regret. It occurs nearly silently, imperceptibly, through little waves of awareness that began to influence her thoughts. She starts to realize that her ideas come back to you at strange times, not because she wants to, yet she is unable to assist it. She begins to miss your voice, soothing voice, the manner in which you never coerced, but constantly demanded attention. And that missing gradually transforms into longing. It's more than nostalgia, though. It's desire combined with respect, an uncommon combo that only shows up when she observes the appearance of actual restraint, because all the men in her immediate vicinity suddenly feel too reactive, too loud, and too accessible. They talk too quickly, text too frequently, and feel too eager. On the contrary, you are present but gone, quiet but unforgettable. Your absence has taken on a life of its own. Throughout her life, a vitality that permeates each calm area she is unable to identify. When a man leaves without harboring any grudges, he produces an emotional conundrum in a woman's thoughts. She cannot despise him since she was not harmed by him. She will never forget him, as he didn't plead. Furthermore, she is unable to take his place since his composure left a nice of fingerprints of emotion that other males just don't carry. At that point, desire starts to rebuild itself, not to catch your eye, but for your vitality. She now begins to inquire about your well-being, doing, not because I'm curious, but because desire. She looks through your images, stays a little while longer. Before liking anything, he hesitates. She recounts discussions that took place months ago, long time ago, looking for significance in words that felt commonplace at one point. She begins to yearn for what she resisted in the past. Your discipline, your separation, your separation. Because of what used to make her feeling strong now makes her feel insignificant. Here's where the emotional equilibrium totally flips. You are no longer the one awaiting her blessing. She's silently looking for yours. She doesn't state it out openly, but her behavior makes it clear. Delicate exchanges, small messages, tries to enter your orbit again without as if it were clear. She is determining whether the door remains open. However, the reality that most disturbs her is that you are no longer standing there. You have progressed upward, ahead, and inward, and it's that development that makes her desire you once more, not because you didn't come back. Desire born out of absence is not the same as attraction that results from work. It's calmer, more reverent, and deeper. She wants more than just to see you again. She longs to experience the emotions she once did when you were close, that serene, centered energy that caused her to lose all memory. She was a mess. Additionally, even if she never makes contact, because she knows in her heart thing she once believed she could walk away from, has turned into the person she heart continues to return in silence. Section 6. The power of the man who doesn't come back. There is a pause, more powerful than any confession. The, the quiet of a man who never comes back, nor with resentment, nor with pride, but in a peaceful manner. Because after a man sees what's pursuing him ruins and what silence brings back, he experiences a permanent transformation within himself. He understands that leaving wasn't loss, it was freedom. Frequently, the world romanticizes the man who relentlessly pursues love, yet who rejects to persevere despite the difficulties. The reality, however, is far more somber. The individual, the man who knows when to make peace to put an end to the conflict. He is not required to declare his absence or provide evidence of evolution. He just walks away from the behind and walks the emotional battleground into silence. And that silence speaks more forcefully for him than any goodbye could never be said. When she at last realizes you're not returning, it evokes a deeper feeling. Rather than remorse, it inspires humility because she understands that your separation isn't a strategy. It's a fact. You've outgrown the relationship that briefly kept you captive. Emotion no longer drives you. You depart from consciousness. That knowledge provides you with the type of few men ever achieve that level of control. command over yourself, not over her. And she now feels strong because of that. Your lack of presence. You're untouchable now. The reason you vanished isn't because you become someone she used to be. Behavior is no longer accessible. She may text, she could provide a suggestion, or she could test the waters, but she secretly feels the distinction. The man who once required her, his mission now has the focus. Once reacting, the man now reflects. The man who once looked for her knowledge now exists outside of her. Confirmation. This is the silent power of the man who never comes back. His composure is not vacant, it has a purpose. His distance is not a penalty, it's conservation. He is no longer demonstrating that is able to possess her. He's demonstrating his ability to himself. That's what sets the Stoic apart. The desperate man. One looks for fulfillment via another person. The others find fulfillment within themselves. And ironically, at that moment, she senses the greatest allure, since nothing more unnerving to a woman than understanding. She has lost her emotional control over the man who once gave her his whole affection. She senses the variations in each conversation, each quiet moment, each look, the silent assurance that his she is no longer the center of the world. And that insight results in a combination of respect and grief she can never completely settle. You see, it takes guts to leave, yet it requires competence to stay gone. The individual who doesn't come back isn't cold, he's recovered. He's arrived at the stage where passion is not as valuable as peace, and presence is saved only for what merits it. Because occasionally the strongest, it's the most important statement you will ever make. You create by remaining silent and never making a comeback. Section 7. The psychology of her attraction to the man who turns to leave. What attracts a lady to the man who leaves is not being harsh, enigma, or even supremacy. It's polarity. It's the unseen difference between his self-control as well as her emotional instability. She is deeply ingrained in her mentality to be drawn to emotional equilibrium, the type of steadiness she is unable to produce on her own with ease. The individual whoever leaves represents that equilibrium. He does not oppose out of arrogance. He just refusing to let emotion control them. Additionally, that in some ways, silent resistance feels strong. She is unable to explain. When a female encounters when a man offers without limits, she feels secure but lacks inspiration. She might value his loyalty, but she never feels him deeply. His accessibility turns into his downfall. She finds out about his beat too rapidly, anticipating his next move, and involuntarily begins to lose curiosity. However, when she comes across a man who has the ability to vanish and remove his energy with poise rather than rage, she notices a change in perception. That quietness piques interest, and attraction stems from curiosity. Subconsciously speaking, she doesn't interpret his lack of response as a rejection. She notices it as a source of strength. His poise under she receives a message from emotional pressure. Her body always interprets before her mind can. This dude has been grounded. This individual is secure. You can't control this man. And ironically, that security, that absence of what makes him irresistible, is his control. Since it makes her think of macho assurance, which she longs for but seldom locates. The man who leaves without bitterness stimulates both her reverence for, and fear of losing self-control. It's a storm of the mind. She desires a sense of control, but she wants to experience something bigger than command, a force to which she must submit. Your calm is that force. For this reason, she wants you depart, falls for you, not previously. Because she is exposed by your distance reliance. She learns from it that love isn't regarding ownership. It has to do with presence. And because of your absence, that presence indisputable. Each test she previously employed to gauge your emotions now turn inward. Instead, she starts putting herself to the test, doubting her decisions, her pride, and her failure to recognize your value when it was directly before her. Additionally, as she observes your movements with silent guidance, she begins to feel things she has never felt before while you were there. Respect, rather than for what you provided, didn't reveal anything. Your tranquility, your concentration, and self respect. That's what femininity is all about. Psychology. She might be duped by words, yet she remains because of the presence. Additionally, the existence doesn't pursue. It is unwavering. It moves slowly. When it has to, it leaves. Because deep within herself, she has one secret that she will never reveal. Loud. The individual who can leave without the one she will never really walk is rage. Away from. The conclusion is that it's never about retribution. It concerns tranquility. It is not the man who leaves that does it, cause suffering. He acts in this way to safeguard significance. Because there comes a time when love is no longer about clinging and begins to focus on keeping oneself collectively. And that is the point at which power starts, not in opposition, not in rage, yet in a cool, collected respect for oneself. The man who stayed doesn't win her over, pleading for approval. She falls in love with the person who departed with a definite assurance, since that man conveys a message words could never express how valuable he is. Negotiable. He makes no demands. Her focus, her reflection is earned by him. Instead of chasing feelings, he manages them. And it's that stillness, that control, rigorous self-control, that sets him apart from each man who made an effort to win her over by exertion rather than vitality. You are not inherently callous when you walk away. It completes you. Now is the time when you quit letting other people determine your value, other people's opinions, and begin respecting your inner guidance. You no longer require peace is closure, so peace is closure. You give up explaining because you understand you are sufficient. That serene consciousness gives off a vitality that can't be fake. It's a man's vitality who doesn't longer battles to be accepted by someone. He's too busy to be in someone else's world, constructing his own. Additionally, that's the paradox. The instant you stop looking for, she starts looking for you. Because in your silence, she at last senses something she had never done before. Security, the security that results with power, from intent, from unwavering self-control. The man who is able to leave quietly is the man who teaches her the meaning of tranquility, such as, not with words, but with presence. All women are aware of that vitality. She recalls the consistency in your voice, the serenity in your gaze, the manner in which you avoided arguing when it was time to proceed. You didn't have to prevail. You simply don't let yourself be lost.